I didn't have that twitch. It does that.
Good evening, everyone. I'd like to welcome you to tonight's meeting, October 19, 2015. Please stand for invocation. Is Bobby here?
Nope.
Nathan, if you do us the honors, please.
Let's pray. Father, we're thankful for the opportunity to be here tonight. We pray that we would conduct the city's business in an appropriate way. We pray that you'd be with all the staff and the workers that work for our city. Keep them safe. Pray that you'd be with the mayor and his administration as they carry out the daily business. We pray that you would continue to bless Jeffersonville as we move forward and be with our children. In Christ's name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Nathan. Roll call, please.
Councilperson Smith. Councilperson Zastani.
Present.
Councilperson Wadsworth.
Present.
Councilperson Sellers. Present. Councilperson Webb.
Present.
Council President Gill.
Present.
Councilperson Julius.
Present.
Councilperson Owen.
Here.
Council Person Samuel.
Here.
And have the minutes to be approved from the October 5th, 2015 meeting.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries. Can I have approve of the agenda, please?
There are no changes. Motion to approve.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries. Okay, we got claims to be approved, and we do have a hand carry claim of $650. But Amy, I think we're going to do let's do a vote before we do the whole total, so it can be included in there to see if we have support for the $25,000 for Norton's.
Okay.
So we'll do that first. Can I have a motion?
What are we doing?
What was the question?
25,000. We're going to separate it out from the claims.
So you
But
wanna
some
make a
people have to abstain.
Hey, do you want to make a motion then to pull out on page 4, promotion Norton Healthcare Foundation, to pull out that $25,000 from the claim
Well, we're going to vote on that first.
first?
And if it passes,
I make that motion.
To pull it out.
to pull it out.
Second.
Pull it
We're
out.
gonna
Pull it out.
Pull it out, and we're going to approve it separately.
And then we're going to vote roll call.
Matt seconded.
Okay, I got a motion and a second. Any further discussions? Everybody understand what we're doing?
Pulling it out.
All right. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. Now, I'll entertain a motion for the 25,000.
Make a motion that we approve the claim for $25,000.
Second.
I got a motion and 3 seconds to approve the claim for $25,000. So we'll have to do a roll call because we do have a few abstentions, please. So roll call vote.
Councilperson Smith.
No.
Councilperson Zastani.
Yes.
Councilperson Wadsworth.
Yes.
Councilperson Sellers. Abstain. Councilperson Webb.
Yes.
Council President Gill.
Yes.
Councilperson Julius.
Abstain.
Councilperson Owen.
Yes.
Councilperson Samuel.
Yes.
All right. Motion passes. Congratulations. You're welcome. Okay, now we will go on to the claims that have to include the $650 hand carry for Merit Board.
The total, the claim total, adding the $650 and removing the $25,000, is $3,914,383.35.
Well, just so the public knows, this is higher than usual because we have the $2 million for the Disney Park band
$3
payout,
million.
right?
It's $3 million.
Huh?
$3 million.
Got $2 million in my claim.
It's paid out of multiple places.
All right. Well, then that way, I didn't want the public to think, oh, they did a lot of spending in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Okay. Do I have a motion to approve the claims?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Well, we need to do this based on contingent upon the amendment to that, remember?
Yes, that's what you want to do the other last
Substitute, we're going to do this commission contract with the parks.
If they're gonna, Mr. Owens looking at me kind of funny, so I'll explain my motion to include that. And what that is there are some in-kind claims related to parks for in-kind donations. Those in-kind claims would be subject to the approval and the addition to the contract for, through the contract with, what's his name, David Simpson,
Simpson.
We did that in the last.
for the city partners, the city partners program.
So do you second that?
Yes.
Okay, got a motion and a second. Is there any further questions or comments?
They're going to be subject to the contract
We have to
change.
amend the contract. We
We
didn't
haven't.
include in-kind in that contract.
Right, but we haven't set the rate for that new,
We did, if you remember, it was 10%,
We voted on it last meeting.
did we?
and we agreed to allow the committee to go ahead and work out the details with our
I
attorney.
thought that was one of the details, though. The commission was still,
No, we
but
agreed,
you're right.
we
you're
did
right.
agree 10%.
I'm sorry. You're right. So that is based on the 10% then?
Correct.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
All right.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries. Thank you, Amy.
Thank you.
Since the clerk is out sick, did she have anything she needed to say to?
No, ma'am.
Okay, well, we hope she feels better really soon. So move on to unfinished business. Mr. Julius for the tax abatement. This did pass in our first reading.
I'd like to see if we could go ahead and get this passed on the second and third reading. It's the tax abatement that we have,
Change.
nothing has changed, not one thing.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, got a motion, a second to pass this on the second and final reading.
Discussion.
Any further questions, Nathan?
Yes, there is a question. I didn't see in here, and it may be in here, Dennis, but we had someone from redevelopment come talk about how difficult it is to get the folks, the businesses to comply and turn in their paperwork. And and it seems like we just keep going back to them. And if you're giving them a tax abatement, you would think that would be high enough on their radar to us not to have to ask it more than once. Is there anything in here?
There is a clause in here to hold their feet to the fire.
Great, perfect. That's all I have.
Anybody else? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed,
Thank you all.
motion carries. Ms. Calabro, an ordinance fixing the salaries of appointed officers and employees for all the departments of the city of Jeff.
Okay, here we go again. At the request of the council last month on October the 5th, for about 2.5 days, Heather and Christine were pretty much locked behind closed doors and went through the ordinance department by department and then went through the budget by department. So what you should have before you that looks a little bit different than last month is only different because we tried to make the names and the titles parallel what was in the ordinance. Oftentimes I've always referred to the ordinance, but I don't see everybody's budget. And sometimes I think there's a disconnect between what titles different people call positions, so that should no longer be the case, should it, Heather? So do you want to go through page by page, kind of like we did last time, and kind of knock that out real quick? It should be highlighted, so. Because from what I understand, this is due to the state November, so this is it.
This is it.
And we've been through it about 100 times in our office with finance, so this should be it. So on the first page, it's just a matter of changing all the dates. Page 2, again, we eliminated Board of Public Works. Under City Court, we no longer call that individual office manager. Court clerk traffic will no longer exist. City Court, which includes the bailiff and the court reporter. City Court non-reverting fund, they're clerical part-time. City Court probation services and the probation officer will no longer be employed as of January 1, given the closing of the City Court. Apparently the service officer position, that annual salary has increased to $6,000. Just for
Sorry,
some, pardon me?
What is the service officer?
I've never known what that person is.
It has something to do with the vets.
Yeah,
Yes.
It's the liaison.
but I don't remember, yeah.
They find housing and aid them, and
And that's under Common Council?
It's been that way for years.
It's always been paid out of common council funds. So,
Okay.
just for semantics purposes, what we did was go through and change labor instead of laborers or laborer. It was kind of all over the place throughout there. We're going to go ahead and change, it's just engineering department instead of Department of Engineering. Controller's office, we're going to refer to as the Finance, Department of Finance. Under the fire department, same as last time, I didn't make any changes there. We included like the base pay.
you double checked your numbers on that to add the raise?
Just for the record, my numbers were correct to begin with.
Very good.
It doesn't happen very often, so, woo!
For the record.
I'm not a finance person. Amy was a little proud of me.
Gotta
So-
make sure these guys, while they're sitting here, are gonna get paid.
So, I get a little credit once in a while when I can, so. And then apparently we're gonna have 25 firefighters, we're gonna be adding 3 firefighters, that's been confirmed. Under human resources, it's manager of safety, not safety manager. It's law department, not Department of Law. And again, a lot of this is just semantics, trying to align the ordinance with what Amy has in the budget. Under motor vehicle, they have always had a spot for part-time labor, and the years that I've been here, it's been in the budget, but it's not been in the ordinance. They just had a line item as general labor, but we always hire those individuals as part-time, so we thought that it would probably be in everybody's best interest to go ahead and indicate that as part-time labor. Even though those are typically seasonal, we only hire like 3 during the summer. Which is why we went ahead and referred the Section 2-I, because those individuals are paid on that seasonal pay grid and not salary ordinance pay grid. The general labor under Parks and Recreation, we're going from 9 general labor 1 positions to 11. And the green space manager has been eliminated in the budget. It's maintenance crew leader and not crew leader. Recreation program and aquatic center manager, those funds, I guess that's Nikki's position, and she's split with 52% coming out of Parks and Rec and 48% coming out of non-reverting. Under the police department, that's the new base pay.
Your numbers were correct on that as usual, correct?
The same as fire, yeah. So,
Had to give her a...
thanks, yeah. Won't get it right, probably won't get it right next time, so. Patrolman, we're going to go from 40 to 43. Sanitation, we're adding administrative assistant 1 on January 1st. We're eliminating the secretary receptionist, that's actually the same person, but she's being bumped to an AA1. And we're going to add a supervisor of streets and sanitation. And vehicle maintenance, the actual title is called Emergency Equipment Installation and Maintenance Technician, which was actually changed correctly, I think, about 5 ordinances ago, but it now parallels what's in the budget. And then just skilled laborer instead of plural. And then on page 6, actually if you go about 6 down where it says laboratory and pretreatment manager, that should be highlighted and it's not. One of the things that Len Ashak wanted to do is he wanted the salary ordinance to reflect kind of the way he has his folks divided by groups at wastewater. So the lab and pretreatment manager is actually under the wastewater administration and not under wastewater maintenance. So if you look down towards the bottom of the page where I've got the strike, it's actually maintenance supervisor. I'm sorry, wait a minute, I'm looking at the wrong one. Under wastewater treatment plant, I struck it down there because that's actually under administration and not on the treatment plant. If you look at wastewater collection system and the wastewater construction, they were all in one category before on the previous ordinances, and Len has separated them into wastewater collection and wastewater construction. We have a nice org chart for that too, and I think everybody's probably seen that, and obviously the sewer board's on board with that. And then what Amy and Heather and Christine did was go through and make sure that all those new GL numbers were aligned with all those different people. So. Then there's nothing on page 7. Page 8 is the same as the last month's meeting. We changed that from Parks Advisory Board stenographer to Parks Authority. And then on number 9, page 9, that's the same as last time. Paul and Christine and Liz Gross and I are currently working, trying to clean up a last few of those kind of floater people that we kind of have that work at the field house that are kind of undefined as what they do and what their titles are. And the 2 individuals that work at the Ken Ellis who open up the facility and kind of maintain it, but they're not like security. They're not really laborers. So we're cleaning that up too. So once that kind of gets finalized and we get our arms around all those people, they'll be like in a seasonal pay grid as well, probably. And on page 10, that's the same as last time too. We didn't make any changes to that.
Make a motion to pass 2015 OR 57 on the final reading.
Got a motion and a second to pass 2015 OR 57 on the third and final reading. Is there any other questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries. Thank you for all your hard work on this.
Thanks, Kim.
We'll move on to new business, which is Scott Lewis, amendment to the Fire Union 558 contract.
Yeah, being passed around right now is a simple amendment to the IAFF Local 558 contract. And this was the exact language that was previously emailed to you all in the highlighted in the yellow. It's a very simple amendment regarding the shift staffing minimums. If you look, this is the language that was requested by the fire union, the exact language they emailed to us. So Station 1 refers to, you see the ladder truck and the asterisk, that's still at a minimum 3 personnel. But if you look at the asterisk and the italics below that, it talks about that this minimum staffing will be moved to 4 upon delivery of the new ladder truck, estimated delivery June of 2016. And then the language also states that all ladder trucks purchased after the date of January 1st, 2014 will have a minimum staffing of 4 personnel. And then in Station 2, the ladder truck, which I think is there, does show the amendment of the minimum 4 personnel. So prior to that, on Station 2, it was a minimum 3 personnel. And prior to this amendment, Station 1, the ladder truck was not mentioned in the current contract. So those are the only 2 changes, adding the ladder truck for Station 1, Station 2, and then the italic language where the asterisk is. So that's the requested amendment to the contract, and then all other terms and provisions of the contract shall remain in full force and effect. So that's all that we're talking about for tonight. And it's just an amendment to the contract, it's not an ordinance, it just takes 1 vote. And then, of course, to amend the contract, it also has to take action by approval by the executive, the mayor, and also the firefighters union will have to vote on the amendment to the contract.
So this is a 1 reading.
Just for us, yeah, just one vote. It's not really a reading, it's just 1 vote.
Make a motion to pass the amendment to the Fire Union 558.
Got a motion and a second. Any further discussion or questions or comments?
Was anybody from the administration or from the union, did they want to speak on this? Joe, Mr. Hurt, did you have anything you wanted to add?
No, sir.
Chief Hedrick, did you have anything you wanted to add? Just checking.
Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries.
Okay. And the amendment's only written up where just the president and council, Lisa would sign. We don't have it. We'll just sign that. Sign approval.
Is that here tonight for me to sign?
Yes, I mean, you can sign, I passed around copies. You can take 1, sign that, and I'll tell you what, why don't we sign 2 copies, and I'll give 1 to Les, one to the fire union, we'll have multiple copies if we can sign it.
Well, why else?
Thanks.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Lewis. Mr. Sistani, Jeffersonville Police Resources pre-annex, post-annexation compared to the FBI data.
Yeah, there's 2 people here on the council who went through the whole process of annexation, pre-annexation, post-annexation, looking at the studies, and then Mr. Samuel came on board soon after. But as I hear candidates speak in this election, I think that there's a lot of misinformation out there based on my memory at first, and then I'm like, okay, I'm going to go and find out, where we were back pre-annexation and try to set the record straight. This council has been very very public safety oriented, as other councils. But I just want to set the record straight and stop the misinformation from some of the candidates that are out there, maybe don't understand the history as far as pre-annexation, post-annexation, and police resources. So with that, I put a little presentation together, and we'll just go through the slides if it's okay. And if anyone has any questions through the process, I'd be happy for them, to go ahead and interrupt me and go ahead and have those questions. So pre-annexation, I'm looking at slide number 2, so where it says police resources pre-annexation and post-annexation. The annexation plan was conducted in 2006, okay? And then we voted on it in 2007. It was in March of 2007. We knew as a council that there was going to be additional needs, and we actually had some money put aside in an annexation fund. And Ms. Conlon, or Ms. Sellers, if you want to add in at any point, because I know you were there as well. So we went ahead and started building up in 2007 and 2008, and services had to be were required to be provided by the city in the newly annexed area in 2009. Okay, next slide. So what does Jeff Police Resources look like in 2006? And some have said really we should be looking at 2007. My opinion is 2006, but I put both numbers out there for everybody to see. In 2006, we had 53 uniformed police officers and 10 civilian employees. In 2007, we added 3. So in anticipation of annexation, Jeff hires 3 new officers. So Jeff has 56 officers by year-end 2007. So how do we know these dates and numbers are correct? There's public records to that effect. And in particular, there's one special session that has a lot of good information, because at that special session, it was directed specifically towards the annexation plan and police resources. And in the minutes of that special session, it says there are 56 police officers, 3 of which are new officers at the academy, and 10 civilian employees, and that's for 2007. Also in those minutes, I didn't put it in my slide, but in those minutes it also says that the Major Oliver explained that prisoner transport is a big demand on the department, and that's to and from the city court. So keep that in mind. The next slide. What police resources were part of the annexation plan? It said there was a need to hire 18 additional officers, and the second goal was maintain its current ratio of 2 police officers per 1,000 population. The problem here is that there was not 2 employees per 1,000 prior to annexation. But I think the reason they said 2 officers per 1,000 population, the reason that was said, if you look at where we were in 2006 and you add the employees that were the civilian employees, that's where you get the 2.0 officers overall, employees in the police department per 1,000. So to maintain its current ratio, the current ratio at that time was 1.68, which is the next slide is going to tell you. Mm-hmm. And then if you say, okay, no, we should look at 2007. Okay, we're looking at 56 employees, so the ratio is 1.77. After 2016, we're adding 3 new officers. We have a total number of officers of 81 for a ratio of 1.74. So based on this ratio, we're beating the year 2006, which I think is the true year to look at pre-annexation. But even if we look at 2007, we're right in the ballpark. We're within 1 officer. Next tab. Another thing to keep in mind as we look at our police force and where we were in 2006 and where we are in 2016, we've added a lot of technology. We've invested a lot in our police department and in public safety in general. So some of the things we have today that we didn't have in 2006, smartphones, laptops in vehicles. We have a new police station, $12 million police station. We have cameras on the streets, in the vehicles, body cameras. We don't have a need to transport those prisoners to the city court. So those are some additional force multipliers to consider in 2016. So has Jeff Police Protection been reduced since annexation, as some people have said? No, that is not the case. In fact, it's higher when you look at 2016 and right where we were in we were higher than in 2006 and right where we were in 2007. Go on, next slide. Has Jeff fulfilled its police annexation plan? By every measure I can tell, yes, we have. We've added 28 new police officers since 2006, 10 more than the original plan. And we've maintained the ratio. If you look at 2006 or really 2007, we're right where we need to be or a little bit higher. The other comment we hear a lot of times is that there's an FBI requirement of two officers per 1,000 population. Well, on my research, what I find is that there's no FBI standard or requirement on the number of police officers per 1,000. I think we've had other experts say that there's averages, but there's no requirement. But one of the things we do have from the FBI is a lot of data that they collect, and they collect it in a lot of different ways. So if you go to the next slide, what can we learn from the FBI data? Well, the FBI data is broken down to compare data per 1,000 by population on a regional basis, state basis, nationwide basis, and by city size. So when you look at where Jeffersonville is today, and we compare it to the state, the region, and other cities in Indiana, and this information, let me go back up just a little bit. All this information is coming off the FBI website, and I have copies of that. Anyone can go on there. But they break a lot of data down in different tables by region, by city size. And so if you look at the state of Indiana, the ratio overall in the state is 1.739. Cities of the population, this is nationally, if you look cities with a population between 24,999 and 49,999, which Jeffersonville falls into, that ratio is 1.741. So, and Jeffersonville is beating that in 2016 with 1.74. What you find out when you look at the FBI data is large cities over 250,000 in population have a very large ratio of officers per population. I mean, it makes sense. Look at the city of Washington, D.C. They have a lot of officers on duty. There's a reason for that with all the dignitaries that go there. Also, other cities have high crime rates. Go to Chicago or Atlanta. Their ratios are much higher. But you go to the smaller size or mid-sized cities, the ratios are smaller. The next slide is a breakdown of just some cities in Indiana to compare with Jeffersonville. Of course, every city is a little bit different. So, we're kind of close to Louisville, and we have certain unique qualities, as do other cities. But this is just one way to compare Jeffersonville with some other Indiana cities. So, Jeffersonville on a ratio basis is 1.74 versus 1.2 to Bloomington. So we're better than Bloomington on that ratio basis. And in Clarksville, we're a little bit less than Clarksville. Columbus, we're a little bit better than Columbus. A little bit more, we're quite a bit more than Greenwood, and slightly less than New Albany. So based on annexation numbers, FBI data, comparable cities and comparable cities, is Jeffersonville severely understaffed, as some have said. And what I find is by no measure is the police department seriously understaffed. I mean, when you look at 2016 numbers to all these regional numbers and comparable cities, we're right in the ballpark of where we should be, at least on average. So there's nothing wrong with saying Jeffersonville maybe should have a couple more officers over the next couple of years, or if we're a growing city, so if we want to get ahead of that growth, sure, it would absolutely make sense to hire 2 or 3 officers, 2, 3, 4 years out. But
plus, if we want a proactive police department rather than a reactive police department, that means I have more officers.
I think there's some truth to that, but if you look at the force multipliers, we've also freed up some of their time by having this technology and by not having a city court. So just a final slide. In my research, I came across no data points or comparisons showing that Jeffersonville Police Department is seriously understaffed, has reduced coverage since annexation, or is in need of quickly hiring a large number, like 20-plus new officers. So anyway, I just wanted to put it out there. Some of this was based on, all this is based on public records, FBI data, and I just felt a need to go ahead and get that out there because I do think that there's some candidates and some people out there who are misrepresenting the history and the facts regarding our police department.
I appreciate you putting that all together because I know a lot of that, I sat there, came out, and especially the FOP, their steak dinner, and I was kind of looking around like, what? But I wish we could get past this whole annexation, the post and the pre. And I wish some of the candidates, I hope so, when we come together as a council this in 2016, that we look at the police department not based on ratios and all that, but we based on the need. I know our public pretty much feels safe, but like the concern of mine is if you do some ride-alongs, you listen to their run volume, you know, some days are worse than others, but I would love to see us get to the point where our police department can be proactive versus the reactive, because we have a lot of cases and things that need attention, but that's based on run volume, and it changes daily, and as we go on, we're becoming more of the suburb of Louisville. That's just my opinion.
Thanks, Ed.
So was Jimmy?
Oh, Ed, you're still up.
Yep.
We've got redevelopment.
Changing subjects now. One of our representatives to the redevelopment commission is Marty Chalfant, and he lives in my district, and I'm friends with him, and he's been sharing some concerns with me, as well as I think a couple other council people, regarding some of the actions and of the redevelopment department. And I guess it came to the point where there's enough concerns that I wanted to have him come here today and maybe share those concerns with the whole council. So with that, if I could, Mr. Chalfant, if you can come up here. Yeah.
We can share one if you want.
already done it.
We can share.
Where's Andy at? He's an
No,
expert at it.
you can never prevent somebody from just spewing out untruths. All you can do is lay it out there and back it up by the FBI and the Congress. You know what we did beyond.
You got the manual, okay, sorry,
One thing
I actually got the manual, so.
you compare
Andy.
other communities that just set
He has
up
left the
with
building.
Who let him leave?
here with
I don't
what we
know.
have. You compare the same
I've
size
only
city
done
of
it once,
Kokomo
like,
that's got a Chrysler plant. Let's just evaluation. I mean, they're 2 or 3 times.
I think you just turned it off.
God, it's a whole lot more revenue than we have. Right. The size of the city population is deceiving. What if it's all rural? What if it's all farmland? What if you're setting 2 or 3 plants?
Oh, you got a lamp.
It's not that
There we
same
go.
population. It's
Okay.
never apples to apples.
Oh, I'm sorry, I gave it
Well, yeah,
to Les, I'm sorry.
You could, here.
Or- maybe it's
Well, I
an
think
ad.
it's more important the council has a
Oh,
copy
you can.
than,
We're gonna share one with.
But you know, big cities, they get a lot of federal money. Big cities like Louisville gets millions a year from that's outside of their tax.
Do now.
Where was that copy going to?
Matt.
Have you ready, Mr. Chalfant?
Okay. Wanted to kind of make you all aware of some of the things going on with regards to revenues and expenditures within redevelopment. And yes, probably. We reported to the state that last year, in 2014, our revenues were $13 million and our expenses were $20 million. In 2015, based on projected revenue, which has been right at about $12 million, that's what we've been projecting for this year. As of the end of September, we've spent $12.3 million. We owe about $10.5 million on existing contracts. And looking at the balances on some of the larger contracts, we're probably going to pay between $4 and $4.5 million paid out by the end of the year, which I'm estimating that we're probably going to be at about $16 to $16.5 million in expenses. At the end of the year, we will show a positive balance. That is because a couple years ago, we took out a lot of money through bonding and through debt, and that is what has been applied to the TIFs. However, by the end of next year, the projections are that that money will be gone. I can't tell you what we're going to do in 2016 because right now we do not have a budget. So I'm happy to answer any questions that you all may have.
When you said how much, that because we've gone in debt, how much did we go in debt during that time, do you know?
I think we had 14 million for the police station and 14 million in the Series A and B bonds.
Series A and B bonds being for
the police?
Being that were deposited directly into the TIF, just extra cash.
Oh, that was the 2013.
That was the 2013. It looks like there was a total, I think, 28 million? I think.
That was the,
And about 14 of it was the police, and about 14 of it was non-police.
I know one of the things you'd mentioned to me was the concern with maintenance contracts or contracts for, maybe the parking garage or other concerns that redevelopment would have to pay for. Do you have anything to say about that?
Yeah, I mean, it's a concern because we have a lot of property that we pay maintenance and upkeep right now on. And I think based on the recent ruling, Les has informed us that we can no longer pay for the maintenance and upkeep on those properties. For example, the Gray and Wells building downtown, the Arts District buildings, Duffy's Landing, any of the Gateway stuff, so. Right now, we
can't pay it with TIF.
We cannot pay it with
You
TIF.
can pay
That
it
is
with
correct.
other funds like CASI money, correct?
I don't know the answer to that, I'm sorry. I know we can't pay it out
So
of
you do
TIF.
have the revenue to pay them, you just cannot pay them through the TIFs.
Well,
Pay them through the
the
TIFs.
CASI money also pays all of the salaries, correct? Correct?
When I was on there, it was for operating. They used it for operating.
Cassie's operating.
That's right.
Okay.
And is it-
So I don't know if they would have enough to pay all of that plus.
That's the reason we requested the budget.
Well, we've
Well,
got,
the CASI money is pretty much committed.
Yeah, I think you all budgeted for maintenance for.
We did for some of those things.
Had issues of money.
Well, except for the garage, we didn't do anything for a garage.
Still in discussion.
That's what I was thinking, because,
for,
Oh, that's not an agreed deal?
No, we don't.
okay.
Big Four Station will probably be about $200,000 a year by the time you talk the maintenance contracts and the utilities and security and stuff like that. So that's probably what we're looking at for Big Four. I'm not sure what we're going to be looking at for some of these other projects.
And for 2016, you said there's no budget?
No.
And when does that have to be? When does redevelopment, is it the previous year? When do they have a budget or something to go on? How does that normally?
I can't answer that because I've been on 9 months and I don't know what they've done in the past.
Are you talking about TIF budget, or are you talking about
Redevelopment.
operating?
Well, an overall
TIF had to be done by
an
state.
overall budget, because we're asked to vote on, the operating expenses, the TIF expenses and stuff, so, I would assume that we would have a budget. But right now, we do not.
Les, can redevelopment, do they have a time frame?
No statutory. Budget.
Well, the statute says they
shall
submit a budget for review.
I know.
The statute's very clear. I've spoken with officials in Annapolis.
And I
Shall submit a budget.
And I realize that Mr. Merkley does disagree with that, but Lisa and I,
So I guess the
Okay.
question is, are y'all going to get a budget or not going to do a budget? You're not,
Well, I believe it's a violation of Indiana code if they don't.
and I have to agree with Mr. Lewis because Lisa and I called and spoke to, who was it?
We talked to Dan Jones at
To Dan
DLGF.
Jones. And he said they are supposed to have a budget.
The one I spoke with in Annapolis, same thing.
I realize Mr. Merkley might have a different opinion because he's an attorney, and, you know, attorneys always have different opinions, so it's just the way it goes.
Mine's correct on this.
Okay.
Well, on your 2015 budget,
Yes, sir.
are you in line, I mean, or over budget, or?
Well, I mean, our projected revenues this year were, at the beginning of the year, were 12 million. We've already spent almost 12 and a half.
But I mean, where was your budget for 15?
Didn't have a budget.
Oh,
We didn't have one. What we get, it's projected receipts out of the TIF, and we get reports that show projected receipts out of the TIF. So I took the January reports that we've got to show projected receipts of the upcoming year, and those have remained consistent throughout the year in each of the reports that we've given.
Project has a budget. Question is whether or not they have a budget. Each project has a budget. Police station has a budget. Big Four had a budget. Now, issue comes
Put a
up
cap on
when
it.
they are presented with
Cap on.
requests for funds that are not part of those major projects.
Well,
Which happens quite often. How does that fit into the grand scheme?
I'm going to disagree a little bit with my board attorney. We have a contract. However, change orders and cost overruns are a common occurrence. So we may have a budget for $1 million, but we may spend $1,400,000. So really, there is no budget. It's just a starting contract, and they just keep getting change ordered up.
Each budget has a contingency.
Well, we put a cap on all the projects that we approved, or they go,
Starting with the marina project.
Just the one project.
Just one.
Just,
The marina,
oh, that's right.
boat docks.
And in that cap, it included contingency.
Right.
In the dollar amount.
But without a budget, I can see how we're going over.
I have a
Every
question
year.
for Scott, I guess. The maintenance contract, or the contracts that are going to at some point be handed off to us to fund, if they were approved by one entity or one body, and no longer does that body have the ability to pay, does that make those null and void, and then we have to renegotiate the contracts?
No, because usually the way, without looking at the specific contract, almost every contract states that if any one single provision becomes null and void or invalidated by change in Indiana law and whatnot, it does not make the whole contract null and void. Those provisions are built into those contracts. So, just if the law changes and one provision becomes unenforceable, if the law changes, it doesn't invalidate the entire contract. Just that particular provision can't be enforced.
Well, if the provision
is there a
payment,
provision written in where we can
Well,
get rid of that company, that contractor? Or
I mean,
person?
not the whole contract, the contractor, that's what I'm saying. You can't, just because you're saying that we can't use.
I know, but sometimes there's a clause in there saying that at will, it can be terminated, but that might not be in these.
But when you're saying, I thought you were talking about like a contract with a development for a project, and then there's some.
We're talking about maintenance.
You're talking about.
I was talking
talking
about
about
that,
maintenance.
yes.
Like a
I think
maintenance contract.
they're,
I thought you were talking about a project that involves.
No, I'm talking, because we don't pay for the projects, we just, maintenance.
we
is
have
what
a
we're
maintenance
talking about.
contract
Well,
with
it's
a
a
person down at Big
maintenance
Four.
contract. Without looking at the contract you're saying, if it said that this contract shall be paid from TIF funds, and the contract identified the fund, and the law says you can't use TIF funds, then that would invalidate the contract, but if it doesn't identify the fund, and it just says redevelopment is going to pay this amount of money and doesn't identify a fund, then they're on the hook contractually. Just because you can't use TIF funds, because there's other funds that redevelopment.
Oh, I see what you're
You know what I'm
saying.
saying?
But
So it
if
depends
they
on
don't have the
contract
Yeah.
funds, if they don't have the funds in the other, I know the other revenue they have that pays for operation. If there's not enough in that revenue for them to pay, then in theory, they would default. They could not meet the contract, and they're wanting to hand it off to the council. When that happens, do we have the ability to renegotiate the contracts or to do RFPs or?
Especially since you said they're supposed to pay for it they've not said that
Have
there's
you
enough.
seen the specific
I've
contract?
not seen a specific contract.
So you don't have
But like
an
I said, if the
answer for that.
contract doesn't identify the fund.
You don't have
legal
a paper
basis, it's still
contract, so
holding
you
that
don't know.
I got you.
on the hook.
Right.
And.
Yeah, I'm not trying to put you, we can talk about it.
Well,
later.
Yeah.
theoretically, I
We
mean,
don't
because
know.
it's a city department, I think unfortunately, I think the burden falls on the city.
Well,
I mean, unfortunately,
we just need to look at the contract first. There is an out clause, okay. Thank you.
Like I said, without me looking at the entire
Is
contract.
that your opinion?
That falls in.
Okay, Mr. Chalfant,
We're not going to execute the out until we know what
I got you. Thank you.
change subjects a little bit, going back to the marina, is there any updated status as far as the marina, where it's at, or we on budget, on time,
we're
or?
going to come in under budget and we're ahead of schedule.
Good.
Yeah, based on my,
Ahead of schedule.
Did he already go over this?
based on my conversation at the last meeting with Jorge, we have about $50,000 in oh-shoot contingency money. I call it oh-shoot money. We got about $50,000 in oh-shoot money left.
And I have another question too.
Sure.
You know, we had a meeting with NDOT about funding, grant funding of the 10th Street project and trying to maximize the access to funds. Has redevelopment done anything in that regard, of maybe considering changing the project or putting it in phases, or done anything as far as the 10th Street project?
No, not that I'm aware of. I know there was some discussion among council about that.
We're still in the acquisition.
We're still in the right-of-way acquisition phase right now, and probably, I think, you all could probably correct me, I think in the workshop that you all had, Andy said probably March, I think was maybe a date, but anyway.
Anything else?
No, that was pretty much it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Steering, an ordinance transferring certain funds within the same department.
The majority of these transfer requests were sent out by Chief Kavanaugh, I believe, to the full council. All items except the very last one. That was a request from Mr. Northam for a portion of the cost of the new nets at Worley Field, that $10,000. These are all in the
And so
existing
public can
budget.
see what we're talking about. I think she's...
So the software maintenance, the 76, did that not have to be paid this year or what?
I believe that was with New World, and I think it was already fulfilled. The obligation was fulfilled, yeah.
So why was it still in there for 76?
It probably was picked up by Central Alarm, probably picking up the New World stuff, so that.
Oh, you think so? Okay, gotcha.
I was just curious about the, it seemed like recently we had appropriated additional money for the utilities because we way under budgeted for those. But looks like we maybe put too much money into the utilities because now we're backing off $30,000 from what we appropriated. And I was just curious, or a little more than that, but was just curious, will we have adequate to finish the year with utilities, Amy? And
Heather said she averaged it out for the remaining months.
that was my only, I guess, frustration is
We
when
gave them more?
we said we need this much for utilities, and so we added additional, and then it was too much. It was estimated high. And instead of saving the savings, we're going to spend it on something else, which,
Moving it to some,
for furniture and fixtures. That was just a comment.
What kind of furniture they need? You would have thought they would have had everything.
He sent a breakdown in the email. I think it was outdoor.
I'll
Well,
make a motion to approve 2015 OR 59 on the first and second reading.
Second.
got a motion, a second. Is there any further discussion, comment? Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye. All those opposed? Motion carries. Mr. Merkley, redevelopment lease with artists.
Since we're broke, we got to lease some property and generate some money evidently.
we're not going to get much for it.
Oh, I know.
I want in on it.
Because
I need
Police Department. 400 units.
You have in front of you a lease that was approved by the redevelopment commission at the last meeting. This is for a portion of the Grain Wells building to be an artist studio with Michael Wimmer. He's doing business as We Studio LLC. This is a one-year lease for that property at 628 Michigan Avenue. Specifically, it's for approximately 1,200 square feet. The building has, I think the long-term, and I think Nathan can speak more toward this, but I think the goal is to have more than one studio in this. I think the Public Arts Commission has a portion of that, and this would be Studio 2, and it is for 1 year, but there are some renewable terms. The rent, double check here, $400 per month. And then also, the commission would pay for the utilities. Again, it's for a 1-year term for renewable term for up to 3 additional 1-year periods. I know there was some discussion, I know Nathan and I have had some discussions in reference to including some language that we've included in prior leases, that in the event that this property was necessary for economic development project, that upon a notice to the tenant that the lease could be terminated. I can't obviously speak for the redevelopment commission, but I would take, if the council approves this lease contingent upon that language, I would take that back to the commission, and I don't think that's an unreasonable request to be made. I think the reason it was not included in this lease is because this is only a 1-year lease, and odds are if there would be an economic development project to be possible for that property, 1 year we could get out of this lease. So, but by state statute, Scott and I do agree on this, is that the new revisions to the statute for redevelopment would require this lease to be approved and ratified by the council. So,
And just what was passed out, that was something that Nathan asked me to bring tonight, that language there about the term of the lease, with that language about what the lease would extend to the point where it would be sold for pursuant to that economic development project on a certain date notice. So I passed that out, so Nathan asked me, because I think that's, the proposal would be to amend this. And that's the exact language that redevelopers had in prior leases.
And if I could jump add to Les, to his comments. I have spoken with Rob Ways, the redevelopment director, and he said he's fine with adding an out clause. I've spoken with the artist. The artist said he's fine with adding an out clause. And we've been, just to take us back, a number of years back, the intent, well, the idea was to potentially to use one of the Grain Wells building, to use the Bales building, the showroom of that, where the fire museum is, to use that for art displays for our community and some classes and some things. But redevelopment already had conversation going on with the fire museum. So we thought, well, then maybe we could do something with at least the Grain Wells building. And that's when we went to redevelopment about it. But that's when all the issues came up with the leases that were going on at the time with the various museums. So we just backed off. We didn't want the art groups to get mixed up into all that was going on. And so now that we're bringing that back up, and the Public Art Group and the Jeff Arts Alliance is using parts of the Grain Wells building for community projects, and it's going very well. Initially, the Public Art Group, when we started using it, we started paying for the utilities.
Now, who's we?
With the Public Art.
Pays for their utilities?
Yes. And in this contract, it says redevelopment will pay all utilities, or the utilities. So thankfully, that takes it off our back, and it'll go back on to redevelopment, which
Why wouldn't it be prudent to have everybody chip in a percentage and pay the utilities versus tax dollars?
don't know for certain, but what I've been told is this, I guess, happens in other communities. They have these art studios, is that the way this building is designed, that it's really not divided in a way where we could determine who is using what utilities. And then our fear was then, one artist is going to say, well, I didn't use this bunch of utilities, and so the feeling is that the redevelopment.
It's not mechanically set up to
Yeah,
split.
that's what I've been told, but I mean,
You're correct.
And I am obviously, we can have all kinds of, well, I'm going to make a motion to approve, then we can have discussion on this. Make a motion to approve the redevelopment lease with artist Michael Wimmer, subject to the language that was passed out, and with the recommendation of it being a 180-day notice. That's my recommendation.
And when does the term start? Is it start in January, like of 16 to January 17, or, because it didn't say on that handout?
we did not, you put the date in there because we didn't know what was going to happen. I know Mr. Wimmer is wanting to get in as soon as possible, so I'm going to take this back to the commission at its next meeting, and assuming that they approve it, I would assume it would start next month.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any further discussion, questions?
I've got some questions. Under security deposit, under C,
Hold on here, something, sorry, hold on.
if space is used by more than one artist, the security deposit shall be equally distributed to each artist who executed the lease as a tenant. Is that $500 a piece, or is that $500 divided by 2 or 3?
No, it'd be $500 by whoever is executing this lease, because we've sort of designed this as a possible global lease that we can use for other artists, and if there's multiple artists going together to rent a space, but in this situation, it's Mr. Wimmer just under this lease.
So if he had a partner, then he would split that security.
Yeah, or, if there's multiple, I'm assuming sometimes multiple artists come together to do projects, but this would be whoever's name is on the lease, it would be him, Mr. Wimmer.
Okay. I think this is a typo, but on D, security deposit, have you got it there, Les?
Hold on,
Where it says, in the event a security deposit is insufficient to repair space to its original state, other than normal wear and tear, the leaseor should provide tenant with proof of funds. Shouldn't that be tenant provide leaseor?
which one are you looking at, Dennis? I'm sorry.
D, security deposit D.
D under security?
Yeah, 5D.
Yes, you're correct.
Okay. I just started reading through this, so bear with me. Under expectations of artists, it says 628 Michigan will have hours open to the public. This includes monthly jam sessions. It really doesn't state how many hours or anything like that. I'm just asking.
I just prepared as I was told to prepare it, so
Mr. Wimmer,
I didn't negotiate it, so.
Can
I speak?
Yeah.
Sure.
The idea behind this is not just for me to go in there and turn this into my studio and that's it. I'm not going to put up an open sign like the other things and wait for everybody to come to me. Talking to redevelopment, they wanted this area to turn into a art district. It's what I wanted to do. I'm in New Albany right now. It's what I tried to do there. They didn't work with me over there. The idea is not you're getting the gateway and the hotels and everything. You had the downtown area. Well, they would love people to be able to walk from the gateway to downtown. It's not that far. But right now, this area is kind of industrial, very industrial. I don't think anybody's really... So the idea was to turn this area into an art district. And I feel I can do it better if I have my studio there. Not only doing my work, but, the first thing I would do, I have a beautiful 14-foot sculpture we'll put right on the corner, right in the parking lot on Spring Street. People will see that, okay, what's going on? Next thing, after I get moved in, I want to do murals on that building. Okay, now you have a sculpture, you're looking through the sculpture, you're seeing murals happening back here. You're seeing pop-up art, so the buzz is going. So I'm not just taking this space as my studio, locking myself in and working. The other thing I wanted to do in there was one of the inner rooms. I want to have a gallery in there, a community gallery for students in the community. Put their artwork in there. You know, it's great when the students have art shows at their school, but it's a lot more important to them that there's something happening outside the school at a gallery somewhere else. That's something that's big time for these kids. So I'd love to have a community gallery inside that building, along with the jam sessions. So it's not, like I said, it's just not my gallery. You know, I want to go in there and make this other stuff happen.
So I go back to my question, you won't have set hours, it'll be...
I'm in my studio 7 days a week, basically. You know, if I need to, I'll have set hours there.
No, I'm just trying to understand.
I'm always in my studio working.
Are you talking about set hours? I'm not talking about necessarily, not set hours where he's going to work. Set hours where he
Open
will
to the
be
public.
open. Right, that's the set hours we're talking about.
Okay.
We understand what you're doing.
Okay.
I mean, you live it.
Mm-hmm.
We get that, but will there be set hours set in case?
That's what,
you
I'm
gotta-
just trying to interpret the contract. I'm not trying to be hard to get along with.
No, that's okay.
It's a public document, we're trying to figure
You know, it's different for me because it's a public building.
And I think part of what this is intending, Dennis, is the hours that it's open to the public is when we have the community go in to do art projects under the Jeff Arts Alliance. That they call those jam sessions. And so Dawn Spiker brings a group of folks in for her jam session, and then what it's doing is making sure that those can continue to happen, the way I interpret this. That was the intent.
It's the expectation for him, it's to give him, notice that he should expect people to be in and out of the building.
Yes.
You know,
Which they are in my studio now where I am.
Right.
If I'm there, people are always welcome to come in.
Right.
I'd love to have, school tours, art classes. I go to schools and speak to these classes. Well, let me go there and speak to them. Then they can come to my studio and see how it's done and see what it takes and everything. So this is all community stuff. That's why I want to be in this building, to make all this happen. I mean, you have a great thing going with public art right now.
The tenant shall establish rules and regulations, or do we have anything on that?
What section you reading at, Mike?
Number one, under lease agreement, it says, the tenant shall establish rules and regulations governing the affairs of the tenant, including the right to terminate the artist's right. But I mean, do we have a list of rules and regulations, or what do we have? Do we have anything?
I would change the tenant shall establish.
But we don't really have any rules on either side right now.
No, but I think that should be changed to less, so that way the commission has the right to establish.
I think they need to go through it and do that.
And it says here too that if,
Who wrote this out?
What page are you on, Mike?
I'm all over the place.
Also,
I've already read it, that's why I'm all over the place.
Dennis was talking about, I looked at that again under security deposit. Scott agrees with me. I think it's correct. I think it's freaking correct.
No, yeah, Dennis, when you talked about that security deposit, I think it is, it's worded, I would have worded it differently, but I think it's correct. It says, the lesser should provide
We
tenant
just
proof of
talked
funds
about
needed.
controlling
The
our
tenant shall deposit
utilities.
the lesser
What do you think they're
proof of
gonna
funds. Which that's saying is that if there's damages.
The leaseor is gonna fix it?
No, it says the lesser provide proof of funds needed. That means that you have to give them basically an itemized bill saying, these are the damages above the security.
Okay.
The funds needed means
Right.
this is what we need, these are the actual damages, this is the cost of the damages. So
Okay.
I think it's correct. It's just,
Okay.
it could be worded.
And I will have my own insurance, I'll have my renter's insurance,
Right.
which is $1 million or something like that. So,
Last question.
okay.
When it says artists are strongly encouraged to participate in the, and help in the lead the jam sessions, if the artist is not well suited for this activity, he or she can instead create public art. Each piece will be negotiated by, what do we mean there?
I haven't read this whole thing yet, actually. But the jam sessions, I mean, I was very involved in the last one. That's why I like being in that building, because they're right there for me. I was going in and working on the last project on my own
And give you an
to get it
example
done.
of what this is we put a new wind sculpture up down at the Big Four Park. It's like it moves, there's a term for that. Kinetic, is that the term for
Kinetic.
structure? And we brought in, or the Arts Alliance brought in an artist that hammers out the metal leaves. And we invited the community to come in and hammer out and help make those and rivet them on and make that sculpture. That before an artist would come, Michael would be asked whenever we do any of this, if there's something he can help assist as an artist to teach and help make it possible to do that, he would be asked to do that. The negotiated based on artist, we agreed ahead of time with that artist for that wind sculpture. We will commission you X amount of dollars, say $1,000, to do the sculpture, but you've got to allow people to come in and help and do a class on it. And so that's what this is talking about, and he would be committing to help with some of this stuff as kind of the teacher to teach some art classes that or for the jam session that might pertain to what Michael does. Is what it's getting at. I don't know if that totally answers your
Well, it
question.
says, but if he's not well suited for that activity, what's that mean? He or she can instead create a public art piece to be placed in the community? What does that mean?
I was trying to figure out the negotiated piece.
Yeah.
Where I was going.
Yeah.
Well, anytime
Each piece
the art
would be
commission would do a public art piece, we negotiate with them for the price ahead of time of what their commission or what it's going to cost for that. And so that's my understanding is what this is. I can't explain, Connie, what question instead of that.
Well, what it says is, it says artists are strongly encouraged to participate in and help lead the jam sessions. If the artist is not well suited for this activity, it sounds like maybe the artist doesn't get along well with other people or something. That's what it sounds like. Then he or she can instead create a public arts piece to be placed in the community. So if they can't do that, they're going to create a piece.
Did you read
because
this,
it's a paid
Nathan?
piece. I got a lot of...
Not to that detail.
Oh.
I've skimmed it, yes.
I've got a question under utilities. The leaser shall provide the cooling and lighting and electric and water, et cetera. I get that. The tenant has to grant permission to the tenant to install special operating equipment such as kilns or wetting equipment in the leased space. If for some reason they are to need a special piece of equipment and they have to run gas or electric from the building to this piece of equipment, who's going to be responsible for paying for that? And let's just say they spend $1,000, okay, for mechanical upgrades. When they leave, then are we responsible that they get their $1,000 back?
No.
Most times it says
No.
I think on the lease,
So they have to come to the leaser to get permission to say, this is what I'd like to do. And then it would be looked at and they would say, okay, that looks good to us. And they spend X number of dollars to install the mechanical upgrades, whether it's gas, electric, ventilation, for painting, whatever the case may be. But when they decide to leave, or for whatever reason, then
I think that becomes part of the problem.
part of the building.
The improvement that they made.
This Scott read this.
There's nothing I see here that talks about reimbursement.
It's no different, like, you rented a house and you make improvements to it.
You'd have to have a specific clause in the lease, under the lease law, to get that reimbursement back when you leave. If it doesn't have that clause in there, that's your standard landlord-tenant law, but the improvement is used with property, it's the property of the owner.
And I think from our standpoint, the commission just to make sure that it's protected, that hey, if they get permission to do it, they get reimbursement.
Was there any other questions or concerns? He said, with the discussion, does the motion and the second stand as it was presented?
I think it needs to be looked at.
Well, because if that's the case, I'm just going to let you know that I don't feel comfortable with this, at least with all the questions and concerns that have been raised, so I'll be voting against it unless we table it or so. I don't know.
Correct.
I don't think all the right wording is in. There's too many. I don't know.
Scott, have you read this?
Yeah, I mean, other than the...
There's only 2 changes we've made, substantive changes.
That I passed out, that I was in there.
And then under 1, tenant is changed to lessor. And then we would add the language that Scott's proposing under section 2.
I'm okay with the rest of it, subject to those changes.
Okay. So if there's no further questions or concerns, those motions and second stands, then all
So
those in
it's
favor?
basically, oh, excuse me. I'm still reading, I'm sorry. So it's basically a 3-year contract and...
1 year.
1 year.
1 year.
Renew it, there's renewable terms.
It's renewable.
But it's a 1 year.
So under Article 4, then, this is what you're adding to it, this piece here that you handed out to us, then, versus the 3-year
Yes.
additional 1-year period?
Well, actually, that goes under the
Terms, under section 2.
Under 2.
We would add that as another paragraph.
Renewal is that the parties, as any lease to, they voluntarily choose to extend it, but it's not a 3-year or 5-year term. It's a 1-year term subject to renewal. You have to have votes to renew it.
Okay.
So if redevelopment wants to renew it, because technically renewing it is a new lease.
Well, I also think it would have to come back here.
You'd have to come back here in renewal.
Okay.
It's initial 1-year term, if you're renewing it, it's considered a new lease. You have to come back here.
And we did add to it that it could be changed after 180 days if so we're not bound if the city needed it for something else. That was one of the additions we added tonight.
Yeah, so I recommend having that clause.
So basically, you shorten that time from 12 months to 6 months.
Yeah, that's, yeah.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, aye.
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 I'm going to do a roll call.
Roll call, please.
Councilperson Smith,
Yes.
Councilperson Zastani,
Yes.
Councilperson Wadsworth,
Yes.
Councilperson Sellers.
No.
Councilperson Webb,
Yes.
Council President Gill.
No.
Councilperson Julius.
No.
Councilperson Owen,
Yes.
Councilperson Samuel.
Yes.
Thank you.
Ms. Deering, an ordinance for additional appropriation, and council, she has a new appropriation for us, so just regard what's in your packet. As we added, the email that went out, we had to add Andy's additional appropriation. Disregard what's in your packet. The email that went out to add the 2 for Andy.
You realize if you run a little paint operation, you got a welder, you got all that going on, which they have. You realize $400 a month is some cheap utility.
So this thing
The whole party would have to agree to it, and he's not going to agree to it.
Yes. Just disregard that one. Yeah, just exit out and just go by what she was saying. Do we have the right one up?
No.
So,
Basically what it is, I'll go down through the items. The first request came from Mr. Corbin. It was to appropriate more of the cash in the unsafe building demolition fund to pay for additional grass cutting. The next 3 items are all relating to the same employee. We budgeted back in October of 2014 at the minimum, and that person was brought in like at 25% above, so we don't have enough in the budget for the rest of the year. And so this is all going to come out of that transfer outline that was budgeted for the circuit breaker, so it's really not an additional, it's additional by reduction. The final 2 items were for Mr. Crouch. Lisa can probably speak to those more than I can.
it will, the 30,000 was for the grant match for the reflective signs, and that's a state statute
That was
that
in
we
our
have to
email
comply
earlier today.
to. Right. And the 45,000 was where, we did the 12th Street diet. They didn't take in the traffic signals, since now we made it walkable, that they, right with the hospital traffic, they want to put the walking signals and change all those signals out. That one.
Motion to approve 2015 OR 60. Second. On the first and second.
Got a motion and a second to pass 2015 OR 60 on the first and second. Any other questions or concerns or comments? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Amy.
Thank you.
Do we have a city council attorney report tonight?
Nothing for tonight.
Any department heads? That was the only public comment.
Why did I have
One shop on signed up.
And we move on to council comment. Councilperson Smith. Councilperson Osani.
I just want to say that, I'm sorry I had to miss the last city council meeting. I was on vacation. I did watch the video of it. I'll let you know that. And I do want to add that I wasn't here to vote for the budget, but I would have voted for the budget. Just for the record, I am in support of the budget that we worked hard to create, and I would have voted for it. That's it. Thanks.
Councilperson Wadsworth.
No comments.
Councilperson Sellers.
No comment.
Councilperson Webb.
Well, I'm sorry I missed the meeting 2 weeks ago. You guys are a lot more funner than being on the beach, trust me. So I'm glad I'm here. But first meeting I missed all year. But I want to make a comment. I've had a couple of calls in 6th District and a few other people because they wanted my stance on that budget. I made all those budget meetings and so forth. My stance, I believe in a revenue neutral budget. That's what I've always believed. You can't get it unless you pay for it. But I was asked several times on how I vote, and I would approve that budget, and I just want to make it public record.
Thank you. Councilperson Julius.
Ditto.
I'm good.
Councilperson Owen.
I guess for the record, on the subject of the revenue neutral budget, since we're talking about it, I voted against the budget at the last meeting. Not that I'm against revenue neutral budgets, just against the way we got to being revenue neutral. The budget that was presented showed that it was revenue neutral, but the revenue had it been increased by $1.5 million or so, compared to our original income estimates. And that's, in my opinion, not a way to produce a revenue neutral budget, to change your projections. So that's why, one of the reasons I voted against that budget. So, that's all.
Councilperson Samuel.
Okay. Last Thursday, I had the opportunity to participate in something that was put on by Building and Development Association of Southern Indiana and the city. It was called a development summit. It was held at 300 Spring, lasted all afternoon actually. Shane Corbin presented, Jerry Acey presented, folks from One Southern Indiana, and well as many other realtors, just talked about the growth in our area, and it was very interesting and very exciting to participate in that and see that. I want to thank Ed for his report tonight on trying to help clear up things. It's very difficult to try to recall what happened that many years ago, and I appreciate the work that he did, because I know we get beat up sometimes saying that we're not fulfilling what the council started all those years ago. Even though the majority of us maybe weren't part of that, we still get painted with that same brush, and I hope that puts that part of things to rest, because based on what I saw tonight, we're meeting or exceeding where we were years ago, and I appreciate that. I know that we are all very concerned about safety. That's why we provide the best equipment that we can provide, and we provide the manpower when we're asked, if it's appropriate to do so. So I appreciate that. And I would just make one comment to add to what Matt said, or to maybe counter to what Matt said and clear it up a little bit. In our budget meetings, if we recall, we were more than $2 million in the red. And so the council took a great deal of extra time to determine where we possibly could cut to bring the expenses down more in line with the revenue. We cut a great deal of things with the understanding that we may have to put it back in next year, but we wanted to have that budget that way. And then as we were doing that, we're still short, and we were concerned, do we keep cutting? And we didn't want to hurt our services. And so we talked to the finance director, because multiple times through the whole budget process, she said the income projections were very conservative. So we asked, if you make the income projections not very conservative, rather what we think they might be, then what does that do? And they came back, and the finance department came back, and it brought those in line, even. And so that's what we agreed to do. And it was not a manipulation of numbers. It was what do we think is reasonable, and let's not be overly conservative on one end, but not on the other. Let's try to see where we were. And so that's what we did. And I think it was the right thing to do. And so I just want to clear that up.
And just to add one thing, Ms. Deering, as far as the revenue projections that we have, are you comfortable with what we expect to take in next year as our revenue expectations?
It is an estimate, but circuit breakers play a huge role in what our revenue is going to be, so.
But we budgeted for circuit breakers.
We did budget for
Yeah.
circuit breakers, so I'm optimistically hoping it'll come in that high, but there's no way to guarantee. I'd just like to add to that. I feel really good what we did in this budget, and as you all know, I stated it multiple times. I consulted with Dan Jones with the LGF. We consulted with, what's Todd's last name with the State Board of Accounts? Yes, he's head of State Board of Accounts. They got the original proposed budget that was given to us by the administration. As you all recall, we asked to send that back because it wasn't, well, we sent it back and it came back and says it stands. So when we went to do the budget workshops and all, I called DLGF again. That was done during a conference call in the clerk's office. There were several council people present. They got the numbers, they got the final numbers, and they agreed with everything that we did. I confirmed today with Senator Ron Grooms, the DLGF did get my numbers looked over. They had a conversation with the senator, and they have no issues or concerns with the budget that we passed. And like I said, they got both what we did and what was given prior to us, which was the mayor's proposed budget. So I feel confident the DLGF says that we did the right thing. I feel like we did. And I take offense with some of the stuff that he has said on and off the record. And I hope this clears it all up, because I like to be accused of something like that. So do I have a motion to adjourn? So moved. Adjourned.